James Clear's book Atomic Habits completely changed my life. It was one of my first books that I read during my self-improvement journey. I couldn't do the hard habits that I knew would improve my life and desperately needed help on how this could be achievable. Everyone online or in YouTube videos would be talking about this book and how powerful it was to build solid habits that were holding you back in life. To this day, this book sits on my desk in my room. It's the first thing I look at upon when arising in the morning and going to bed at night. I fell in love with the tips and tricks that James Clear uses to make any habit possible in an easy to understand format. Not everyone likes reading, so I decided to bring this book to life and show you how you can build better habits in only 30 days. My goal for this video is to make it as engaging as possible for you guys, to make it more interesting for you and easy to apply to your life. Are you ready to change your life? Then let's get into it. Number 1 is how to choose a habit that sticks. Anyone can convince themselves to practice yoga or meditation once or twice, but if you don't shift the belief behind the behavior, then it becomes hard to stick with long-term changes. Improvements are only temporary until they become a part of who you are. The goal is not to get straight A's. The goal is to become a person who studies every day. The goal is not to finish a painting. The goal is to become an artist. The goal is not to win a game or competition. The goal is to become a person who practices every day. If you volunteer at your local homeless shelter, you start to believe you are the type of person who cares about your community. The more weekends that you show up to the shelter, the more you reinforce that identity. And the easier it becomes to see community service as part of who you are. Here are some more examples of linking your habits to your desired identity. If you want to write a book, you should focus on becoming the type of person who writes every day. If you want to learn a new language, you should focus on becoming the type of person who studies every day. If you want to retire early, you should focus on becoming the type of person who saves money every month. The focus should always be on becoming that type of person, not getting a particular outcome. In the beginning, it is far more important to cast small votes for that desired identity than to worry about a particular result. Number 2, the 2-minute rule for building lasting habits. The most effective way I know to do this is follow the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. For example, walk 10,000 steps each day becomes put on my running shoes. Keep the house tidy becomes put one item of dirty clothing in the laundry. Be a better partner becomes make my partner a cup of coffee every morning. Get straight A's becomes set my books out on the desk when I get home. You may not be able to automate the whole process, but you can make the first action mindless. You are trying to build a gateway habit for a larger behavior or a bigger ambition that you are trying to work towards. Make it easy to start, and the rest will follow. For instance, learning to play a song on the guitar is very hard. Learning to play the chorus of a song is very difficult. Learning to play the scales is moderately difficult. Practicing the chords is easy, but picking up the guitar and sitting down in a quiet spot is very easy. Your ultimate ambition might be to learn to play a full song, but your gateway habit is simply picking up a guitar, finding a quiet place to sit in and practice. That's how you follow the 2-minute rule. Number 3, how to fit new habits into your life. The implementation intention. An implementation intention is a plan you make beforehand about where and when to act. Simply put, how you intend to implement your habit. For example, I will insert behavior at a certain time in this location. So you might be confused. Let me give you a few examples of what this looks like. I will make a green smoothie at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. I will stretch at 9 p.m. in my bedroom. I will make my bed after I turn off my alarm in my bedroom. When and where you decide to insert a particular habit into your daily routine can make a huge difference. If you are trying to add meditation into your morning routine, but mornings are chaotic and your kids keep running into the room, then that may be the wrong place and time. I want you to consider when you are most likely to be successful. Don't ask yourself to do one of these habits when you know you are busy and occupied with something else. Number 4, how to design your environment for success. One of the simplest ways to do this is to make the cues that trigger and prompt your habits as obvious and visible as possible. Unfortunately, the environments that we live and work often make it not easy to do certain actions because there is no obvious cue to trigger that behavior. It is so easy not to eat fruits and vegetables when they are hidden at the bottom of your fridge. It's easy to not do yoga when your yoga mat is hidden away in a box in the basement. When the cues that spark a habit are hidden, they are easier to to ignore. If you want to remember to do 5 burpees before you get in the shower, add a post-it note to the shower door. If you want to remember to refill your water bottle every time it's more than halfway empty, use a Sharpie to draw a small line at the halfway mark on the water bottle. If you want to remember to write in your journal for 5 minutes at 7 a.m., store the journal on the kitchen table so you see it when you sit down for breakfast every morning. I think we could summarize this strategy as follows. If you want to make a habit a big part of your life, you need to make that cue a big part of your environment. Make sure the best choice is the most obvious one. In the long run, and often in the short run, your willpower will not beat your environment. Number 5, how to make good habits automatic. I refer to this process as reducing friction. The less friction associated with a habit, the more likely it is to occur. In other words, as convenience increases, so do the odds that you follow through on your habit. The central idea is to create an environment where doing the right thing is as easy as possible. You want to make your good habits the path of least resistance. Here are some examples of how you can do exactly that. Put apps that promote learning or relaxation on the home screen of your phone, such as reading apps like Audible or Pocket, or a meditation app like Headspace. It's way better to do this rather than filling your phone with distractions like email or social media. Try putting together a home gym setup. That way, even if you don't have time to get a full workout at the gym, you can still do a few sets at home. Get healthy meal kits delivered to your door with a service like Green Chef or HelloFresh. I promise I am not sponsored by these guys. I'm way too small of a YouTuber. And lastly, clear your workspace of distractions that will take you off task. Number 6, prime your environment to make future habits easy. I call this strategy priming the environment. That is, creating an environment that favors the habit you are trying to build. Priming the environment adds one more layer, and it's a way to make your future habits way easier. And here are some examples. Want to meditate more? Set up a comfortable, quiet place in your home where you practice meditation. Want to encourage your children to read more? Help them make a reading nook in their bedroom with some comfy pillows and plenty of reading material. Want to paint more? Set up your paints and your brushes beforehand so you can walk in and get straight to work. Whenever you organize a space for its intended purpose, you are priming it to make your future actions easier. Now your environment is ready for immediate use next time around. Whether we are approaching behavior change as an individual, a parent, or a coach, we should ask ourselves the same questions. How can we design a world where it's easy to do what's right? How can we prime our environments so our future habits are easier? Number 7, 2 strategies to combat fading motivation. The first is called temptation bundling. Temptation bundling works by linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. You are more likely to find a behavior attractive if you get to do one or more of your favorite things at the same time. Perhaps you want to watch your favorite TV show, but you really need to fold that basket of laundry. Using temptation bundling, you can only watch your favorite show while you're doing your laundry. Maybe you want to indulge with a few pieces of your favorite candy, but you need to work on your book manuscript. Solution: you are only able to eat your candy while you're working on your book. See how simple that is? Let's look at some more examples. I will only eat my favorite snack when I am studying French. I will only visit my favorite coffee shop when I'm making my budget for next week. The second strategy that you can use to boost your motivation is referred to a commitment device. A commitment device is a choice that you make in the present that locks in your actions in the future. There are many ways to make a commitment device in your own life. Use a website blocker to lock you out of distracting websites, or delete distracting apps off your phone. When you go to the doctor or dentist, always schedule your next appointment before you leave, because now it's on your calendar. Leave your phone at home when you're going to an important meeting or going to catch up with a friend or loved one, so it can't distract you. Number 8, how to create a reward that makes habits satisfying. I'm gonna discuss how to create an effective reward that makes your habits more satisfying. So I once heard of these engineers that laid a series of sensors across a set of stairs. This was in the subway, and they decorated them to resemble a giant set of piano keys. When pedestrians walked up these stairs, musical tones started playing from the speakers. Suddenly, using the stairs was fun and surprising. Each step was accompanied by a musical note. Motivated by the immediate satisfaction of making music, 66% of people decided to take the stairs rather than riding the escalator nearby. This type of immediate feedback is a powerful factor in getting habits to stick. The more immediately satisfying that habit is, the more likely it'll be repeated in the future. I really like this other one that I read about, which is on the first day of the semester, a few students met among themselves, agreed that whenever the professor raised his arms while talking, the students would nod their heads and smile approvingly at whatever the professor said. The students followed through on their plan, and by the end of the semester, the professor's arms were wildly flailing throughout the entire lecture. We learn which behaviors to repeat based on how they make us feel. When we take an action that feels good, like a professor looking at a room where students are smiling and nodding, we want to do more of that action in the future. This is referred to as the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is rewarded gets repeated, and what is punished gets avoided. Now, how do you create an external reinforcer that aligns with your desired identity? You can try take your bubble bath with your exercise habit, or every time you go out for dinner, transfer $50 to an account labeled trip for Europe. Of course, it would be so much better if we didn't need these external rewards to maintain motivation. In a perfect world, the reward for a good habit is the habit itself. However, good habits tend to feel worthwhile only after they have provided you with something. External rewards are some of the best strategies for maintaining motivation while we are waiting for those long-term outcomes to arrive. Number 9, visualize your progress and stay the course with a habit tracker. A habit tracker is a simple way to measure whether you did a habit. The most basic format is to get a calendar and cross off each day you stick with your routine. For example, if you meditate on Monday and Wednesday and Friday, each of those dates gets an X. As the time rolls by, the calendar becomes a record of your habit streak. Don't break the chain is a powerful mantra. Don't break the chain of stashing away money in your savings account every month, and you'll build wealth and gain peace of mind. Don't break the chain of meditation, and you'll gain focus and more control over your internal state. Don't break the chain of reading every day, and you'll finish over 20 books in a single year. One woman tracked how many pages of her book manuscript she actually wrote by adding a hairpin to a container after each page. Another man tracked each set of push-ups by adding marbles to a jar. Of course, there's always that story from Atomic Habits about the successful stockbroker using paper clips to track his sales calls. For example, I record my set in my workout journal after I finish each set in the gym. I write down what I ate for dinner after I put my plate in the dishwasher in the kitchen. I record how I slept in my sleep journal after I turn my alarm off in the morning in bed. I hope you guys are keeping up with me because we're heading into number 10, the role of family and friends in shaping habits. I'm going to discuss one of the most powerful drivers of habits and behavior change, the social environment. This is true in large and small ways. Large tribes like nations, religions, and businesses can influence our behaviors, and small tribes like what neighborhood you live in, what school you go to, or what organization you volunteer at can also influence your behavior. The key factor in any of these tribes is that we have a sense of belonging. When you want to belong to a certain tribe, you want to repeat the habits of that tribe. We naturally soak up the habits of those around us. If you move to a new neighborhood where your neighbors meticulously maintain their lawns, you might start gardening or landscaping your lawn too. If you start going to a CrossFit class where your classmates are eating a vegan diet, you might start eating that way too. If you join a church that values community service, you might start volunteering your time as well. This strategy can be utilized no matter what habits you desire to build. The key step is to join a group where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. Whenever I'm writing at my home office and I get stuck, my mind immediately looks for ways to check out. I pull out my phone, I browse the web, or I go down to the kitchen and start looking for food. But sometimes I'll call another writer friend and we'll work for a few hours together. If I'm with a peer and my mind stalls, I just sit there for a minute or two until the mental block passes. I don't want to be the lazy one who stops working after a few minutes. And as a result, I get 3 times as much done as I do on my own. When you join a book club or a band or a cycling group, your identity becomes linked to those around you. Growth and change is no longer an individual pursuit. We are readers, we are musicians, we are cyclists. Number 11, habit graduation. Moving from 2 minutes to mastery. When you start building a new habit, it's exciting because it's new. When things are new, it's novel and it's interesting. Over time, however, habits become routine. They become learned and the outcomes become expected. Once you know what to expect, habits become less interesting, and sometimes they even become boring. This could be one of the first signals that it's time to graduate your habit to the next level. You scale up when what was previously challenging is now the new normal. When your old habit becomes boring, you know it's time to move on. However, this could be a potential pitfall because once people get bored, they immediately start looking for something new to do. A new solution, a better approach, or a better program. Pretty soon you start jumping from one habit to the next, or one program to the next, and you never spend enough time focusing on one thing long term to get results. The key is, once you get bored, you stick with the same habit, but find a new detail to master or get interested in. Stick with the same habit, but scale up the intensity or the volume. For example, perhaps you begin a walking habit by putting on your walking shoes and going outside for 2 minutes each day. After a few weeks, this routine will become so easy that it feels boring to you. At this stage, you can scale up to walking for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. The potential pitfall is jumping from a small version of your habit to something massive. Even as you graduate from one level to the other, you want to be careful to maintain small, incremental movements. Just because you mastered the art of showing up doesn't mean you jump ahead to the finish line. Start by mastering the 2 minutes of the smallest version of your behavior, then advance to an intermediate step and repeat the process, mastering each stage before you move on to the next level. Eventually, you'll end up with the habit that you originally hoped to build, despite starting so small. Habit graduation will always be a personal choice and require some level of guesswork. One of the metrics that I like to keep in mind is choosing a new level that is exciting enough that I'm no longer bored, but easy enough to know that I'll be able to do it 98% of the time. The Goldilocks rule states that humans experience peak levels of motivation when working on tasks of just manageable difficulty. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. This is precisely the region where habits remain motivating and exciting. Working on challenges of just manageable difficulty is a good way to keep things interesting. One way to know that you are in the Goldilocks zone and staying on the edge of your ability is that you are winning enough to feel successful and failing enough to feel challenged. The key aspect to focus on here as you are trying to expand is winning enough to feel successful. If at any point you expand your habit to a degree where you are no longer succeeding consistently, you know you have surpassed the Goldilocks zone, and you should scale back down to something easier. You just need enough winning to experience enough satisfaction and just enough wanting to experience desire. Example, once you've mastered putting all the dirty clothes in the laundry hamper, include another simple cleaning task, like washing a dish right away after you use it. Once that's easy, scale up to another task. Staying on the edge of your potential is more art than science. Nudge yourself a little, so you are no longer bored, but not so much that you are failing each time.